Hi, my name's Ed. I've been DIY screen printing for about 18 months and I learnt using purely YouTube tutorials and information on forums. And while I feel like I've learnt a lot, there was loads of things that I discovered when I first started screen printing that no one seemed to mention. And there's tiny little bits of information that I think would really help if I was starting out again and would get me to the same point I am now, but a lot quicker. So I'm making these videos to hopefully try and save some time and money for people that are starting out in screen printing. In this first video, I'm going to go through equipment that you need to screen print. A lot of the equipment I use is from pound shops. I'm in the UK, so everything's in pounds. But if you're in other countries, I guess you're going to have the equivalent shops in your own country. A lot of the kit that I use you can pick up really cheap. It's not specialist at all. And there's other bits of kit which I think you really definitely need to spend some money on because it'll improve your prints no end and it's definitely worth shelling out for. So I'll go through the basic equipment that I use. Now a lot of the stuff I use is from pound shops. So you can pick up things like this. This is a little roller tray for like paint rollers. These you can get from pound shops and they usually come with paint rollers as well. I found this really useful. You can just put, if you've got a spatula or something with ink on it, you can put it down, you can put your squeegee in it without getting ink all over the place. Really cheap. Pick them up at most hardware shops, most pound shops, Poundland, somewhere like that. And similarly I use like a paint scraper as a spatula. I don't actually use a palette knife or anything, which a lot of people do. Again, it's somewhere you can save some money. It's got fairly sharp edges, so you have to be careful around your screens. But apart from that, and you can see this is going quite rusty, so it does taint my ink if I forget to clean it up, but again that's no biggie. You can just clean it off with a soft cloth or something. But again, pound shop, you can get all this stuff from pound shops, as well as this like paint stirrer. I use this paint stirrer for stirring up the inks, really good. Again, Poundland, Tommy Walsh DIY section, amazing. There's some stuff which is a bit more specialist. Get mixing cups. I just use plastic pint cups for mixing my ink up in. Again, you can get them most places. But like I said, there's stuff that is more specialist, such as, and I don't think you should scrimp on, such as the scoop coater, which you use for coating the screens with emulsion. I tried at first using just a normal squeegee. And while it works, it's really not great. You can't get a nice even coat on your screens, and once you've used a scoop coater, you'll never go back to using a squeegee. So you can get these relatively cheaply from eBay, Hunt the Moon. I think it's where I got this from, but you can equally, there's loads of screen printing suppliers you can buy these from. I don't think they're much, sort of 10 quid, but it will change the way you coat your screens with emulsion. And I'd never go, like I said, I'd never go back to a squeegee. Again, squeegees, you can't really use any other piece of equipment for actually printing, so you're going to have to shell out for squeegees. I started off with just this small wooden one, and then as I've got bigger and bigger designs, I've sort of bought more and more, and I've got a selection now of various sizes. But again, that's something you can't really scrimp on. There's nothing you can buy from a pound shop that will do the same job as these, really. One thing I almost forgot to mention was the screen mesh. When I first started out, I would go to a fabric shop and buy net curtain material, and I did get some prints out of that kind of thing, but they weren't amazing by any stretch of the imagination. I was also still stretching my screens with a staple gun at that point, so several things compounded up to make really horrible prints sometimes. And when you've got that many variables of bad practice, then you've really got no chance of making a good print. So again, this is something you definitely need to spend the money on. It's not that expensive. You can get this from eBay or screen printing suppliers. It is very specialist, really, so you can't get it, unless you're lucky, you won't be able to find it locally. But again, it's something I don't think you should scrimp on. And if you're just starting out, there's no point in using net curtain material. Just go straight for the real thing. I use weighing scales to mix my ink. I use a lot of discharge ink, so I use weighing scales to mix that up. Again, you can get them from most shops. There's just digital food scales. G-clamps, I use G-clamps to stretch my screens, and I make my own wooden screens, so I use G-clamps to clamp the wood down to the table to keep it square while the glue's drying. Pair of scissors, just a pair of DIY scissors, again, Poundland, something like that, you can get them from. And contact adhesive. Now, this was one of the biggest things I wanted to talk to you about in my first video. Lots of people on YouTube, when I was first starting out, I'd watch YouTube tutorials, and people would be stretching their screens, staple gunning it down to a wooden frame, pulling it tight with their hands and stapling it on the other side. I started off doing that. You really can't get the right tension into the screen by using the staples and a staple gun. I thought stretching the screens properly and gluing them was too much work and too difficult for me to do. But once I tried doing it, it's actually really easy. I'd say it's easier than stapling, and it makes all the difference to your prints. Obviously, you have to have the right tension in your screen to get decent prints, and you just can't do that with staples and a staple gun. So, contact adhesive. This comes from Wilkinson's in the UK. Wilko's. It's £2 a tube. You can get buckets of it from Wickes or larger DIY shops, but I find I only make 1 or 2 screens at a time, so a little tube like this is enough, and it saves me spending sort of like 10 or 15 quid on a big tub of it. I've used this for all the screens I've glued, and it works great. I'll do a proper tutorial on how to make screens at a later date though. Also, a selection of tape. Black duct tape I use for taping up my screens. Again, this is from Wilkinson's, Wilko's. It's £4.50 a roll. Quite expensive, but it's really good quality. Again, you can probably buy this from pound shops, but it doesn't stick as well. The glue's not as good. Again, you probably buy it from screen printing suppliers as well. I haven't really looked because I can just walk into town and buy this. Another thing I use is this yellow painter's tape. A lot of people talk about blue painter's tape. I was really worried about damaging the emulsion on my screens, and I use this for masking parts of designs off that I don't want to print. As I said, I was worried about damaging the emulsion on my screens, so I use this delicate surface tape, which is yellow. Again, you can get this from most big DIY shops, so Wickes, B&Q, Homebase, places like that. I think this was quite expensive. It's about £8 a roll, but I don't use much of it. I'll only use it when I'm masking off a certain area of a screen frame. So yeah, a variety of different tapes. And that's about it. I use water-based inks, so I just use water to wash. I don't have any special chemicals to wash with. And like I said, most of this you can buy from pound shops. The only 2 specialist items really are the scoop coater and the squeegee. And I think you can get perfectly fine prints with this lot. And I think that it's the kit where you can save a lot of money. So hopefully this has helped, and I'll see you in the next video.